The mockery of humanity. The grand hall of the Galactic Council was alive with laughter. The towering Selenary warlord, High Chancellor Vokran, stood before a massive display, his reptilian face curled into a sneer. The image on the screen showed Earth, small, insignificant, floating in the vast darkness of space. Vokran turned to the gathered alien leaders, his voice dripping with mockery. Humans? A species of weaklings, barely more than scavengers. Their ships are outdated, their weapons are primitive, and they dare call themselves a spacefaring race. Laughter erupted across the chamber. The Koran warlords, a species of armored insectoids, chittered in amusement. The Valkay diplomats, cold and calculating, smirked. Even the neutral factions, those who had once defended humanity, said nothing. Humanity had no empire, no great fleets, no colonies stretching across the stars. They were ants in a galaxy of giants. Vokran raised a clawed hand. It is time we end this human experiment. They have refused to bow before the true rulers of the universe. Let us remove this pest before they become a nuisance. The council erupted in agreement. A resolution was passed within minutes. The extermination of humanity would begin. Earth's silent response. Across the galaxy, in a hidden military facility orbiting Jupiter's largest moon, Admiral Ethan Cole stood in silence, watching the transmission from the council chamber. His expression was unreadable, his blue eyes cold. The aliens thought humans were weak. They thought humanity was unprepared. They were wrong. Behind him, rows of officers and engineers worked at their consoles, their faces illuminated by the dim glow of holographic screens. Schematics of a warship filled the air, projected in perfect detail, a ship unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The U.S. Revenant, a warship that did not exist, a warship that no scanner could detect, a warship that would turn fear into a weapon. The Revenant had been in development for years. The Phantom Project, Earth's greatest secret. While the galaxy laughed, humanity had been building. Ethan turned to his chief engineer, Dr. Helena Graves, an older woman with sharp features and tired eyes. How long until it's ready? She hesitated. It's operational, but we've never tested it in combat. Ethan nodded slowly. Then we'll test it in war. The enemy was coming. They just didn't know they were already dead. The invasion begins. The Selenary fleet arrived in Martian orbit a week later. It was a terrifying force. 50 warships, armed with plasma cannons capable of turning entire cities to ash. High Chancellor Vokran stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as his fleet surrounded the weak, pathetic human defenses. There were no war fleets waiting, no great planetary shields, just a few outdated human ships drifting like wreckage. Vokran grinned. Pathetic. He opened a transmission to Earth. Humans, surrender now. Kneel before the Selenary Empire, and perhaps we will allow some of you to live. Silence. Vokran's smile faded. Repeat the transmission. Again, silence. Something felt wrong. His second in command, a younger Selenary officer, shifted nervously. Sir, I detect no planetary defense systems activating. No fleet movements. It's like they don't care. Vokran growled. Then we will burn them. He raised his clawed hand to give the order. And that's when the first ship disappeared. The Phantom strikes. One moment, the Selenary cruiser was there. The next, it was gone. No explosion. No energy signatures. Just gone. Vokran blinked. What was that? His officers frantically checked their screens. There was nothing. No wreckage. No escape pods. As if the ship had never existed. Then, another ship vanished. Panic spread through the Selenary ranks. Weapons fired wildly into the void, but there was no enemy to fight. The second-in-command's voice shook. Sir, we are being attacked, but we can't see them. Vokran clenched his fists. Impossible. No ship can be invisible. And then, the voice came. A transmission cut across every cellular screen. The voice was calm, cold, and human. "You laughed at us." The bridge of Vokran's ship went deathly silent. "You thought we were weak." Vokran's breathing quickened. His claws dug into the console. "Find them. Find them." His scanners detected nothing. "Now you will learn what fear truly is." And then, the flagship shook violently. Alarms screamed. Metal groaned. Something unseen was ripping into the cellular defenses. A new report came in. 1/3 of their fleet was already gone. And they never saw what hit them. The galaxy will never be the same. On the U.S. Revenant, Admiral Ethan Cole stood at the helm, watching the battle unfold. His ship was invisible, untouchable, a phantom in the dark. Jax, his weapons officer, smirked. "They're terrified, sir." Ethan's lips curled into a grim smile. Good. This was just the beginning. The galaxy thought humanity was defenseless. Now they would fear the ghost in the void, because the Revenant was hunting. And it never missed. The invasion begins. The Cellular came expecting a war. What they got was a massacre. High Chancellor Vokran gripped the edge of his command console, his clawed fingers digging into the metal. His fleet had arrived at Martian orbit expecting a swift and easy conquest. Instead, his warships were disappearing. One by one. No explosions, no energy signatures, just gone. His officers frantically searched their screens, eyes wide with terror. "As Supreme Warlord, we have no visual on the enemy. We have no ratings." A shrill alarm cut through the bridge. Another ship vanished. Another. And another. Vokran's vision blurred with rage. This wasn't a battle. This was a nightmare. The unseen hunter. "Deploy scanners. Cloak disruptors. Find them." Vokran bellowed. The cellular warships fired blindly into space, plasma cannons igniting the void, but they were shooting at ghosts. On board the U.S. Revenant, Admiral Ethan Cole watched the chaos unfold. His hands remained steady as he observed the enemy fleet panic like cornered animals. Jax Riker, his weapons officer, let out a low whistle. "They're scared, sir." Ethan's expression was cold. They should be. The Revenant was a masterpiece of human engineering. Undetectable, silent, deadly. Its experimental shadow cloak technology bent light, distorted energy signals, and absorbed radar scans, making it functionally invisible to even the most advanced alien detection systems. It was a ghost ship, and tonight, the Cellular were its prey. Ethan glanced at his tactical officer. "Load the gravity lances." A series of dull, metallic clicks filled the bridge as the Revenant's primary weapons came online. The Exhilarating had always seen humanity as a primitive race. Let them learn how wrong they were. Ethan gave the order. "Fire." The terror begins. The attack was instant. Invisible beams of compressed gravitational energy lanced through space, spearing cellular warships from within. From the outside, nothing seemed to happen. Then, ships imploded. Metal crushed inward like paper. Hundreds of alien crew members vanished in an instant, their bodies compacted into nothingness. The auxiliary fleet erupted into chaos. The remaining ships scrambled, their thrusters flaring as they tried to evade a foe they could not see. The fleet's communications descended into hysteria. "What is hitting us? We need to reiterate. We can't. THEYR inside your ships. Hey, what are? Static. Another warship crumpled like tin foil. And then, Ethan made his next move. "Phase 2, he said calmly. On his command, the Revenant dropped its cloak, just for a second. And for that single, horrifying moment, the Exhilarating saw it. A massive warship, jet-black armor reflecting no light. A towering shadow of cold, calculated death. Its hull bore no insignia, No markings, just an eerie, gaping void where a nameplate should be. And then it vanished again. Vokrin staggered backward. His cold-blooded veins ran hot with fear. This wasn't a war. This was a hunt. And they were the prey. The galaxy listens. Across the Galactic Council, encrypted distress signals flooded the network. The exhilarating were broadcasting a planet-wide emergency request, a message no one had ever expected. Humanity possesses set-elithid warships. We are under ATTAK. Our forces are being YPDOUT. And then, silence. The exhilarating's military beacon went dark. The entire council chamber fell into a hushed horror. The Valkyrie diplomat, an elder species known for their precise logic, stared at the screen, stunned. This cannot be. The humans are winning? The Koran warlord, once smug, now watched the reports with widened, fearful eyes. The Excelenary Empire, one of the most feared military powers in the galaxy, was being erased. By humans, by a ship they never even saw. The mockery of humanity was over, and the age of terror had begun. The Excelerary's desperate gamble. Back in the remains of the Excelenary fleet, Vokran was out of time. His forces were shattered, his warships reduced to scrap. Only one option remained. Activate the Planet Buster. His voice shook. Now, his officers hesitated. But Supreme Warlord, I said no. At his command, the surviving Excelenary dreadnought shifted position, revealing a massive planet-destroying cannon beneath its hull. It charged with crimson energy, its core humming with unstable power. If they couldn't conquer Earth, they would burn it. Vokran grinned through his desperation. Let's see if your ghost ship can stop this. The Revenant's answer. On the U.S. Revenant, Admiral Ethan Cole watched the energy signatures spike. His heart pounded. The Excelenary were about to destroy Earth. The warship's main cannon could not be allowed to fire. Jax Riker cursed. They're going for a planetary kill shot. Ethan's gaze hardened. Not today. He turned to his helm officer. Target their cannon. The Revenant moved. Its thrusters flared, sending it soaring toward the massive dreadnought at impossible speeds. For the first time in the battle, the humans weren't hiding. For the first time, they were coming straight for the enemy. Jax grinned. Let's see how they like fighting in the dark. Ethan fired. And the Revenant unleashed hell. The stolen victory. The Excelenary had one last weapon. A planet buster cannon, mounted on their dreadnought, its core burning with unstable energy. If they couldn't conquer Earth, they would erase it. The Galactic Council watched in stunned silence, their screens showing the Excelenary fleet in ruins. But this was something else. Genocide. And humanity's only hope was a single warship, a ghost in the dark, a legend no one believed in until now. The Revenant's charge. The U.S. Revenant roared forward, its engines burning blue against the black void. Inside the bridge, Admiral Ethan Cole's voice was calm, sharp as a blade. Target that cannon. Full speed ahead. Jax Riker, gripping the weapons console, grinned despite the odds. You really like making my job hard, don't you, sir? Ethan's jaw tightened. The Excelenary thought they had won. They thought humanity would bow. But now they would burn. Fire. The Revenant's cannons erupted. Bolts of compressed gravity slammed into the Excelenary dreadnought, warping its shields, crushing its armor inward like paper. But it wasn't enough. The Excelenary cannon continued to charge. A hollow, eerie voice filled the Revenant's comms. High Chancellor Vokran. You think one ship can stop an empire? Vokran's tone was wild, manic, desperate. Ethan's fingers curled into fists. Not an empire. Just you. The Revenant's thrusters flared, bringing the ship even closer, so close that it couldn't miss. Jax exhaled, fingers tightening over the trigger. Time for a miracle. He fired. The sky shatters. The Revenant's final shot struck the exhilarating dreadnought dead center. A pulse of gravitational energy spread through the ship's hull, tearing it apart from the inside. Panels ripped free, energy conduits exploded, and the once mighty warship fractured like glass. Vokrin screamed. The exhilarating's most powerful weapon, gone in an instant. And the Revenant, already gone. Cloaked, invisible, a ghost once more. The Empire breaks. The surviving Selnary ships fled. They didn't fight. They didn't argue. They ran. The Galactic Council watched in horror. A fleet that had mocked humanity had been destroyed by a single warship. The balance of power had shifted, and now the galaxy was afraid. A message to the stars. The next morning, a single transmission echoed across the galactic network. A warning, a declaration, a legend being written in blood and fire. Ethan Cole's voice rang out across the universe. Mock us again, and you will never see your end coming. The age of humanity's silence was over. Now it was the galaxy's turn to fear the dark. The rise of fear. The Selnary Empire was silent. Their mighty fleet had stormed into the Sol system, ready to crush humanity under their boots. They expected surrender, obedience, fear. Instead, they got annihilation. And now, the survivors limped back to their homeworld, their warships shattered and broken, carrying a single truth. Humanity was no longer a joke. Humanity was now the thing that lurked in the dark. The Galactic Council, once dismissive, once filled with laughter at the thought of humans, had gone quiet. Fear had taken root. Because if humanity had one ghost ship, how many more were waiting? The Council's panic. The Galactic Council gathered in a secure chamber, away from the public eye. This was not a meeting of politics. This was a crisis. Ambassador Xelan of the Valkai stood, her crystalline skin reflecting the dim light. The Selnary invasion was supposed to be a display of strength. She paused, her voice tight. Instead, it has become a warning. The room was filled with murmurs, nervous glances, shifting postures. No one had seen this coming. The Koran warlords, the most war-hungry of the species, hissed in frustration. They destroyed an entire fleet with one ship. One. How is that possible? No one had an answer. Because humanity's true strength was still unknown. The debate, war or peace. The council was split. Some believed that humanity should be destroyed immediately, that their warship was an abomination, a threat to the balance of power. The Koran warlord slammed his fist onto the table. We must strike now. If they can build one ship like this, they can build 100. We cannot wait for them to rise. But others, like the Valkai, hesitated. Ambassador Xelan folded her fingers. You want to go to war against an enemy we cannot even detect, against a fleet that may already exist in the shadows. The room fell silent. The truth was terrifying. If they pushed humanity too far, would the ghosts come for them next? The hidden specter. As the council argued, something watched them. A small, unseen probe, cloaked and drifting in the vastness of space, listened. And deep inside Earth's hidden military headquarters, Admiral Ethan Cole watched the live feed. A slow smile spread across his face. They're afraid, he muttered. Jax Riker leaned back, arms crossed. Good. Let him stay that way. Humanity had been the butt of every joke for centuries. Now, they were the monsters hiding under the galaxy's bed, and Ethan had no intention of proving them wrong. The Council's decision. After hours of heated debate, the Galactic Council made their choice. A transmission was sent to Earth. One simple message. We request an audience. For the first time in history, the galaxy was coming to humanity. And the question now was simple. Would humans accept peace? Or would the ghosts in the dark choose war? The Galactic Gamble. The Galactic Council's message hung in the air like a ghost. We request an audience. For centuries, humanity had been ignored, mocked, and dismissed as a primitive race. Now, the most powerful empires in the galaxy were coming to them, not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as beggars. Arrival on Earth. A sleek diplomatic vessel emerged from hyperspace over Earth, escorted by 2 Terran Defense Force ships. Inside, Ambassador Exhilarating of the Valkyrie sat stiffly in her seat, her crystalline fingers twitching with nervous energy. Across from her sat General Ralvik of the Koran warlords, his exoskeletal plates clinking as he shifted. Neither of them spoke, because for the first time in history, they were not the ones in control. Their ship entered low orbit, gliding past colossal human defense stations. Unlike the grand, elegant structures of the Valkyrie or the towering war bastions of the Koran, these stations were made for one thing: war. Huge turrets tracked their every movement. Dozens of ships, larger than any previously recorded human vessels, held formation around the planet, their weapon systems fully powered. Sealand swallowed. The reports had been wrong. Humanity was not weak. They had been preparing for this moment. The meeting. They landed in a classified military facility deep within the North American sector. As the alien ambassadors stepped onto human soil, they expected a traditional diplomatic greeting. They expected lavish receptions, political speeches, maybe even weak attempts at proving humanity's strength. Instead, they were led into a cold, steel-walled room. No ceremony, no pleasantries, just a single table. And sitting at that table was Admiral Ethan Cole. His gaze was calm, unshaken, unimpressed. He did not bow. He did not thank them for coming. He simply leaned forward and said, "You wanted an audience. Speak." The aliens hesitated. This was not the meeting they expected. The fear of the unknown. Sealand was the first to recover. She folded her fingers together. "Admiral Cole, the Galactic Council seeks peace." Cole's expression didn't change. "Peace." Ralvik, the Koran warlord, growled. "The war you started." Cole cut him off with a single, sharp laugh. "The war we started. The Exhilarating fleet invaded our system. They came to burn our worlds, and we buried them instead." He leaned forward. "And now do you fear us?" Silence. The Koran warlord's mandibles clicked nervously. Sealand chose her words carefully. "The Council. Miscalculated." Cole smirked. "That's one way to put it." She exhaled. "What happened at Mars has changed things." Cole studied her for a long moment. "How many fleets have you built since then?" Sealand flinched. "I don't lie," Cole said smoothly. "We know about the military buildups. We know the Koran are doubling production, and we know the Valkyrie are developing countermeasures to our stealth technology." Ralvik's claws dug into the table. "You're monitoring us." Cole grinned. "What makes you think we ever stopped?" The room went cold. This wasn't a diplomatic meeting. This was a warning. The phantom threat. Ralvik stood abruptly. "If you think humanity can stand against the full might of the Galactic Council, you are mistaken." Cole's smile never wavered. "You still don't understand." The lights flickered. A hologram appeared above the table. At first, it looked like empty space. Then, a single Terran warship decloaked. Then another. Then hundreds. Gasps filled the room. Sealand's breath hitched. Ralvik staggered back. They had assumed the U.S. Revenant was a singular weapon. A miracle ship. A legend. They had been so wrong. This wasn't one ghost in the dark. This was a fleet. Humanity had been building these warships for decades. The Revenant was just the beginning. Cole's voice was calm, controlled, deadly. "You do not negotiate from a place of strength. You negotiate because we allow it." The Council's choice. Sealand's hand shook. The balance of power had shifted. She understood now. They were never here to offer peace. They were here to beg for survival. Ralvik snarled. This is a trick. Cole didn't even blink. Is it? Zealand exhaled. What do you want? Cole smiled. Humanity had been mocked, humiliated, treated as lesser. Not anymore. Now, the galaxy would know their place, and they would never forget. The choice between fear and extinction. The silence in the negotiation chamber was suffocating. The galaxy's greatest powers, the Koran warlords, the Valkai High Council, and the surviving Selnary factions, sat frozen, staring at the fleet of ghost ships hovering in the void above Earth. Hundreds of them. Sleek, black-armored warships that no scanner could detect. Silent killers, invisible assassins. The U.S. Revenant had been the beginning. Now, humanity had an entire fleet of phantoms. And the message was clear. Surrender, or disappear into the dark like the Excelnary fleet. The council fractures. Seelan, the Valkai ambassador, swallowed hard. She had come here to negotiate peace. But this was not a negotiation. This was a reckoning. Ralvik, the Koran warlord, rose to his feet, his armor clicking with barely contained rage. This is a deception. No species could build so many warships in secret. This is a bluff. Ethan Cole remained seated. His expression never changed. He tapped his wrist console. Outside, 3 Terran ghost ships decloaked within the Koran fleet in orbit. Their weapons were already locked. Jax Riker smirked from his seat. Go ahead. Call their bluff. Ralvik stiffened. His ships had never detected the approach. If this had been a war scenario, his entire fleet would already be dead. For the first time in his life, Ralvik hesitated. And the moment he did, Cole knew humanity had already won. The true power of ghosts. Seelan exhaled slowly. How long? Cole raised an eyebrow. How long what? Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. How long have you been preparing for this war? Cole leaned back in his chair. He could see the fear in her crystalline eyes. She already knew the answer. He simply said, long enough. Seelan's fingers curled together. We underestimated you. Cole's lips curled into a cold smile. Yes, you did. She turned to the other alien leaders, her voice urgent. We cannot win. We must agree to their terms. Ralvik slammed a fist on the table. You would make us slaves to the humans. Cole shook his head. Not slaves. Equals. The Koran warlord's mandibles clicked. You would have us believe humanity seeks peace. Cole shrugged. That depends entirely on your next decision. A pause. Then, the doors to the chamber hissed open. The last resistance. A squad of Terran soldiers stepped inside, their rifles held loosely at their sides. Not as a threat, but as a reminder. The message was clear. The galaxy was no longer in charge. Ralvik's claws curled into a fist. He turned to Seelan. If we kneel now, we will never rise again. Seelan's face remained unreadable. And if we refuse? Ralvik hesitated, because he already knew the answer. They would never see their deaths coming. The decision. Seelan turned back to Cole. What do you want? Cole's smile was sharp, precise, controlled. The Galactic Council will recognize humanity as a sovereign and equal power. No more dismissing us. No more mockery. You will accept us as part of the Galactic Order. His next words sent a chill through the chamber. Or we will build our own order. Silence. The leaders of the galaxy had 2 choices. Accept humanity as an equal, or become the next Selnary. The future is decided. The next day, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The vote was swift and unanimous. The official declaration was simple. The Terran Federation is hereby recognized as a galactic superpower. Humanity holds equal standing in all council matters. The true message, however, was understood by all. Fear the dark. The ghosts are watching. The age of humanity begins. As the council leaders returned to their homeworlds, the rumors spread faster than light. Some whispered that humanity had been hiding their true strength for centuries. Others feared that more ghost fleets were already being built in secret. But one thing was certain. The era of human insignificance was over, and the era of human dominance had begun. The final stand, the ghosts unleashed. The galaxy believed the war was over. The Galactic Council had acknowledged humanity's power, recognizing them as equals. The era of mockery had ended, but not everyone was willing to accept this new reality. In the shadows, a coalition of rogue warlords, vengeful Sellenary survivors, and fearful factions gathered in secret. They did not believe in diplomacy. They believed in eradication, and their plan was simple. Strike first, strike hard, erase humanity before they became unstoppable. The betrayal. In a hidden war chamber, a group of high-ranking aliens sat around a holomap of Earth and its colonies. At the center stood Supreme Warlord Varric of the Koran. "This is our last chance," he growled, his mandibles twitching. "If we wait, humanity will spread like a virus. They will build more of those ghost ships. And when they do," he pointed at the map, "we will all be next." The others hesitated. Fear clouded their judgment. The Sellenary had thought the same before their entire fleet vanished. But Varric wasn't a fool. "We won't fight them in the open," he said. "We will strike at their core." A cold silence fell over the room. Then an insectoid general chittered. "You mean Earth?" Varric nodded. The galaxy had fought wars before, but this would be different. This would be an extermination. The attack on Earth. The rogue fleet dropped out of hyperspace above Earth's orbit. They expected a fight. They expected defenses. What they did not expect was silence. No response. No movement. Just floating debris, wreckage of old satellites, and abandoned space stations. The lead warlord smirked. Pathetic. They weren't ready. Then his scanners flickered. Ships. Hundreds of them. But no energy readings. No heat signatures. Nothing. As if they were ghosts. The Phantom Fleet awakens. The darkness came alive. The first rogue warship exploded before its crew could even react. Then another. And another. Within seconds, the fleet was in chaos. The Terran Phantom Fleet had been waiting. Humanity knew an attack would come. They had baited the enemy in. And now, the trap was closed. On board the U.S. Revenant, Admiral Ethan Cole watched the battlefield unfold. His expression was calm. "Phase 1 is complete. Milo 7, the rogue AI, reported. Their formation is broken." Jax Riker grinned. "That was fast." Cole nodded. "Time for Phase 2. The Revenant's weapons locked onto the largest enemy warship and fired. The death of an empire. The enemy fleet was torn apart in minutes. The stealth warships moved unseen, striking from the void and vanishing before the enemy could return fire. One by one, the warlord's ships were erased. Varric watched in horror as his flagship's hull caved inward, his own crew screaming as they were crushed by an unseen force. This wasn't war. This was extermination. The same fate they had planned for humanity was now their own. The final transmission. As the last enemy ship exploded, Cole opened a channel to the surviving remnants of the Galactic Council. He spoke only one sentence. "This was your only warning." Then the transmission cut to black. The battle was over. But the legend was just beginning. The age of the Ghost Fleet. No one would ever mock humanity again. Not because of their diplomacy. Not because of their strength. But because of the fear. No one knew how many ghost ships existed. No one knew where they were. But everyone knew one thing. If you ever made an enemy of Earth, you would never see your end coming.